Well, I wasn't planning on hosting a show this Friday night, but all it took was one person on Twitter to say, "Are you hosting a show? I need a Steve Kerr vent session." And I was like, "Yeah, why not? Let's do it." So Friday Night Live, the Warriors lost to the Sixers. I actually was encouraged. We'll break it all down next. Where's my open? Is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Let's get the overlay open for the chat. I want to make this show about you tonight. If you have opinions, obviously the stream is flowing. What's up, Rebel to Sounds? But if you have opinions, express them. Let's communicate. We reached the 30-game mark of the season tonight, and the Warriors are now 2 games under 500. What makes things worse is their road record. They're 2-14, second worst in the NBA, the worst road record in the Western Conference. No Cap is writing, oh boy, this season is over. I told you, I am not even close to ready to go to that point yet. And a huge reason why is because of the standings. So the Golden State Warriors right now, and look, we're a little past the third mark of the NBA season, which is enough of a sample size to start having some legitimate opinions about this team. Things are taking shape, unfortunately, for the Warriors, not necessarily for in a good reason, but right now they're 3 games out of the 6th seed, which Sacramento and Portland are tied with. And the 6th seed is what you need to avoid the play-in. They're 3.5 games out of the 4 seed, 5.5 games out of the 3 seed, 6.5 back. I'm sorry, 5 back of the Pelicans. So they're only 4.5 back of the Nuggets. I'm sorry, only 3.5 back of the Suns, and they trail the first place Memphis Grizzlies, who, by the way, look damn good by 6 games. And by the way, I don't know if you folks watched the Locked On NBA show we did earlier this season before the season started, where we had a lot of these panels, and they're separated by the level of your team in terms of how good they are. So the Warriors are obviously bunched in the group with the title contenders, like the Locked On Celtics host was there, like the Locked On, not Suns. Who else was in that group? The Bucks. Anyways, and I had this argument with a lot of people in that group about how the Grizzlies belonged in that conversation, and they do. They to me are the biggest threat to the Warriors again. And they're currently 19-9 and soaring. They can make a midseason trade to get even better. They're definitely a team to look out for. But look, no Cap. The whole point is the Warriors season is far from over. They're making mistakes that they need to correct, and we'll talk about that. But no, the season's far from over. I mean, look, I was on Locked On Sports yesterday with my great friend Peter, who hosts that show, and I was telling him, and the sentiment is shared pretty much across every platform, every group, that if the Warriors make the playoffs, you just can't count them out. You can't count them out. And Gilbert Arbalo, I agree. The Pelicans are scary. There's a lot of scary teams out there, but the Grizzlies, to me, still are the far and away the biggest threat to the Warriors. I think the Warriors could handle the Pelicans in the postseason. Andre writes that they got an 8-game homestand coming up, that they need to win most, if not all of them. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I support that. But tonight, I was actually encouraged. Look, the Warriors came into this game without Stephen Curry, obviously, who's going to be missing a minimum of 2 weeks. But realistically, folks, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks with that subluxation of the shoulder, a slight a separation, dislocation, of his left shoulder. Stephen Curry had a press conference today. I might play some sound for that later in the show. But look, so realistically, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks that we're going to miss Steph and Curry. They didn't have Andrew Wiggins tonight. He started practicing, so we'll hopefully see him soon. Draymond Green had a right quad contusion, which basically means he got a muscle bruise there, so he missed tonight's game. And then Klay Thompson played with a sore knee. Should we start with Klay Thompson, folks? That was not a good game. And a huge issue I had with Klay Thompson tonight, and I'm sure a lot of you did as well, is he looked disengaged. His body language was piss poor, and his performance was not good either. I mean, if Klay Thompson just has an average game by his standards, the Warriors win tonight. But in 35 minutes of play, he shot just 4 for 17 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, which is okay. It's all right. But he was a -9 in the plus minus, scored just 12 points. And for a game like this, where you really need him, and I agree with what a lot of people are saying, which is that it looked like he was forcing a lot of his shots. And it's very transparent when he's doing so. Like, other teams can sniff that out. And when they do, they almost let him take those shots. He was atrocious. Absolutely right. It was a horrible game for Klay Thompson. And at a certain point, when we're talking about changes that need to be made with this team, and again, Arian Anus, your handle is Anus, Aenus. Thank you. You got me good there. Look, I'll touch on Ty Jerome and Lamb and so forth in a moment. But Klay Thompson, there is a possibility. I would love to know what you folks think, but Steve Kerr, I mean, this is clearly the worst year of his coaching tenure with the Golden State Warriors and in his career, because this is the only place he's ever coached. He's going to have to, I think, start contemplating benching Klay and making him the sixth man. I mean, we've seen how good Jordan Poole is as a starter versus how he is coming off the bench, right? Last year didn't phase him that much, but this year it's very apparent that Jordan Poole is much more comfortable as a starter as opposed to coming off the bench. And the way Klay Thompson is playing this year, I mean, look, I mean, you can make excuses for him a month ago because he was coming back from not the injuries, but from a lack of his normal conditioning routine in the offseason. I've been an ardent supporter of Klay this whole season, his whole career. I love the man personally, but it might be time to bring Klay Thompson off the bench. I don't know if that would be the worst idea in the world. I think it might actually help things quite a bit. Now, look, Steve Kerr obviously loves him, but again, just to rehash, Klay Thompson had an awful game tonight. But there were positives. Now, one of the big positives I saw tonight was Jordan Poole himself, who had a pretty bad first half, but then regrouped nicely, finished the game with 29 points, was 4 for 9 from 3, shot 50% from the field, did have 4 turnovers. That seems to be a part of his game that he's really struggling with this year. But he had a fine game, folks. He was a huge reason why the Warriors stayed in this game. He was not a part of that mad flurry to start the game. His performance came in the second half, but the Warriors did find a gem in Dante DiVincenzo, who started tonight in place of Stephen Curry. You're likely going to see him continuing to start at least until Andrew Wiggins comes back. I'm curious to know what the lineup's going to look like then. Most likely it'll just be Poole and Klay in the backcourt. And then DiVincenzo comes off the bench, but his career high in 3-point made shots. I'm sorry, is 6. He made 5 tonight. Those were all, I believe, in the first quarter. He cooled down a little bit after that, but he also had 10 rebounds. And to go along with 6 assists, he had a fantastic night statistically. He was hustling out there. Give that man an extension the moment you can, because Dante DiVincenzo, his contract next year is a player option at $4.5 million. And Deluser Gillis writes, why can't Dante finish? Are you referring to like the end of the game? Or I don't, you need to elaborate a little more on that. But they need to keep him, and they need to resolve that, and they need to resolve that soon. All right, Anus, in just a minute, I will address what you've been flooding this chat stream with. And you're referring to layups for Dante DiVincenzo. Yeah, I've noticed that now and again. It's not something I would hit a panic button over. but he makes up for that with his overall play. That's a complaint I'm not going to throw out on tonight's show. But when we come back, I want to point out a few other highlights. Got to talk about James Wiseman, his first game in a while. He was given a whopping 11 minutes. I'm being sarcastic, but I liked what I saw, except for the 3 personal fouls in the first half. That was kind of brutal. But James Wiseman, I think he looked good. He didn't look like the liability that he's been. And I'll highlight the rest of the positives in tonight's game. First, I have to give some love to a couple of sponsors here. First off, the National Highway Transportation Safety Agency. So you're hanging out with some friends, you're putting back a few drinks, a few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride, but then you go, nah, you live nearby, you can make it home okay, it's no big deal. What are the odds you're going to get pulled over anyways? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of drunk driving. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. And today's episode is also brought to you by BetOnline, our longtime sponsor. What a website. Oh, actually, you know what? I stand corrected. Oh, I am so sorry. Well, BetOnline is such a great sponsor anyways, but tonight's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, another awesome sponsor. And PrizePicks is legal in California, folks. So if you're here, you can start playing today. PrizePicks is super fun. The entire premise is you're betting over-unders on individual performances. Jordan Poole probably had an over-under of 29.5 tonight. You could have bet on the over-under of Jonathan Kuminga rebounds, on Joel Embiid's total points, rebounds, and assists combined. You could have a lot of fun with what you're betting on. And again, it's just all about over-unders. It's 2 to 6 players. And if you bet on 6 and you nail that, you're winning a ton of money, folks. And again, all it does when you play PrizePicks is make you a whole lot more vested and interested in the game you're watching. That's very much the premise of sports gambling, folks. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. So again, you deposit $100, they'll give you $100. If you deposit $50 or you only have $25, they'll match that 50 or $25. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports today, where I was just a guest actually last night. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I'm going to talk about JaMychal Green in a moment. I actually thought he had a good game tonight. I do agree, Rebel to Sounds, and Moses Moody should have played together. Peter Friesen writes, from the Splash Brothers to the Brick Brothers, ouch. Ain is continuing to flood the chat with Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb criticism. I'll get to that in just a minute. I promise you, folks. But I want to highlight the positives first before we get to the critique, just because there's so much critique. And there are some bright sides to this game. I thought Jonathan Kuminga played great. I know the stat sheet will not necessarily show that. He had 7 points, clearly not great. 0 rebounds, clearly not great. 3 assists, meh. He had 1 turnover, but he also was playing, I thought, great defense on James Harden. I thought he was tasked with muscling inside with Joel Embiid a lot tonight, along with Kevon Looney. I thought he was fine. I thought, look, Kuminga's not going to have big scoring outputs every time he plays. He's only 20 years old. He's still figuring the game out. And in a game like tonight against a very tough defensive team like the Philadelphia 76ers, I will forgive him for a lackluster point total. I thought he did fine. I think he's showing progress. I am happy with him. Moses Moody, I thought, had a great game. He only played 16 minutes again. The stat sheet won't reflect it. He also had that unfortunate scenario late in the game where he had back-to-back corner threes that he missed both of. They went long. They were straight, but they went long. But again, 16 minutes. I would have liked to see more playing time for him. He only, he had 2 assists, 2 rebounds to go with the 3 points from the one made three-pointer. But again, I thought defensively he was solid. And he causes problems because of his size. He is a big dude out there. And again, obviously Dante DiVincenzo, Jordan Poole, and then Kevon Looney had a fantastic game, 14 points, 11 rebounds. And again, the Warriors kept this game close. I do guarantee this. The Philadelphia 76ers are not going to win the World Championship this year. They're not good enough to do that, but they're still a damn good team. And for the Warriors to keep this game close all the way until, the final whistle or buzzer or whatever, I was happy. I was not fully, I wasn't like disappointed or depressed about it like I can feel, and I'm sure a lot of you relate to that. But now comes the and actually one more thing before we go to the bad stuff. JaMychal Green, I thought he was okay tonight. Look, he's not going to be a three-point threat, okay? Let's just give up on the idea that JaMychal Green is going to actually give you minutes, give you three-point attempts. He's going to stretch the floor. Look, if you waive him, I don't think anyone's going to care. But I don't think I saw him at all in the second half. And if he was out there in the second half, it was very sparse minutes. But in the first half, and I think he played a total of 11 minutes, he grabbed 8 rebounds, and he was muscling in there a lot with Embiid. Look, the Warriors, man, I'm trying to stay positive here. All right, so that's it for all the stuff that I thought was okay. All right. Now, Anus, I'm going to make you happy. I thought the reason why Ty Jerome was on this team and the reason why Steve Kerr liked him so much is because he's a pass-first point guard, because he's selfless, because his role out there is to make others around him better. He was given 19 minutes tonight, by the way. 19. Moody was given 16. I love seeing Ryan Rollins out there in garbage time for that last minute. Wish we could see more of him. 19 minutes for Ty Jerome. And my biggest issue with Ty Jerome tonight, never mind the horrible defense. He's an awful defensive player. Awful. People scoring him at will. He can't stop anyone. He had 10 field goal attempts. 10. He led the bench, and it wasn't even close in field goal attempts. You know who had the second most field goal attempts on the bench tonight for the Warriors? Anthony Lamb with 6. Third, James Wiseman with 5, and he made 3 of those shots. I don't want to see Ty Jerome shooting the ball out there. That's not his role. And Anus, you're right. He doesn't pass the ball that much. He takes ill-timed shots. He just routinely misses his shots. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse criticizing Ty Jerome, and it's nothing personal, folks, okay? Like, this is a sports show. We're talking basketball. When the game is over and Ty Jerome is not on that court, I have nothing against him personally. He might be a very nice guy. I have no idea. Never said a word to him. But as a player, he sucks. He sucks. He is no good. No bueno. All he does is bring this team down. One of my very close friends, I don't know if he wants to get credited for this, but he sent me a stat on Ty Jerome tonight, and I'm going to break that stat here first before I tweet it out or whatever. So when Ty Jerome plays, the Warriors score 22.9 points per 100 possessions. Let me repeat that again. When Ty Jerome plays, the Warriors score 22.9 points per 100 possessions. That's awful. Okay. That's awful. And this is going to be included in a story that comes out soon. And again, I was just text messaged this stat very recently. So I'm sorry if I'm looking at my phone telling you folks this. But again, that's not good. That's not good. He's not a good player. Anthony Lamb is, and again, Rebel sounds right. So why did they play Dante DiVincenzo and Ty Jerome together? I don't know. Now Khaled is on here saying he's going to have to disagree. And for anyone who disagrees, and there's still going to be a Steve Kerr apologist, because I feel like the only way you could defend Ty Jerome at this point is by, defending Steve Kerr, because this is Steve Kerr's decision to play him, right? And Khaled writes, I'd have to disagree with this strongly. Ty Jerome is a good defender. No, he's not. He knows where to pass. Does he? He's one of the leading turnover machines on this team. And he actually didn't have a turnover tonight, which is for once good. But again, 10 field goal attempts in 19 minutes to lead the team. That's not what he's there for. He played well in the fourth quarter. They didn't win. And yes, who gets those minutes? Moses Moody. 100%. It's a no-brainer in terms of who gets the minutes. You know who else should get those minutes? Ryan Rollins. Because the bottom line is, if you're not winning your games, you have to develop your players. And Deluser Gills writes, Alchemy likes Ty Jerome. Well, first of all, he was on the show and we talked, and he didn't say that to me, but he likes Anthony Lamb, and him and I are going to have to agree to disagree on that. And again, no cap, hate's a strong word. I don't hate these people unless you say sports hate, then yeah, that's fair. But Ty Jerome sucks, okay? And look, there are two huge differences between last year's World Championship Golden State Warriors team and this year's 14-16 Golden State Warriors team, who's 2-14 on the road. Anthony Lamb, Ty Jerome. They replaced Gary Payne II. They replaced Otto Porter Jr., Nemanja Bjelica. I still don't know why they let go of Juan Toscano Anderson and Damian Lee. That makes no damn sense to me. But they replaced those five with Dante DiVincenzo, great. JaMychal Green, Ty Jerome, oh my God, what the hell is this? And Anthony Lamb, an alleged rapist who is average at best. The Warriors are not winning a world title if those two-way players are on the team at the end of the season. Okay, that is just like my biggest fear right now, is that Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb are going to be given guaranteed deals because they can only play 50 games as two-way players. And right now they're at 30. So there's 20 games to go. I have no idea what's going to happen in 20 games. But if the Warriors offer those two guaranteed contracts, the Warriors are tanking for Wembanyama. That's it. Plain and simple. And Orlando, I feel like Orlando writes, Ty Jerome is Chris Chiozza too. I feel like that's an insult to Chris Chiozza. Chris Chiozza at least had that one awesome game last year in San Antonio, in case you forgot about that. Let's give some love to BetOnline here, and we'll continue on. And Traveling Arquides writes, trade Green for picks. Who, Draymond Green? Maybe. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. Now I'm giving the right read. And more specifically, betonline.net. They're your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to the college bowl season to basketball and the World Cup. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those there as well. Not as good as us, obviously. And we're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online. It's where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Sorry, one of my vices in life is I sometimes like to pop a Skull Bandit. I'm in a bit of a mess tonight. All right, so Ty Jerome sucks. Anthony Lamb. What's going on with Anthony Lamb here? What did he do tonight? Anthony Lamb played 20 minutes, which means there are 20 minutes that could have gone to James Wiseman. Those are 20 minutes that could have gone to a little more to Kuminga. Kuminga played 29. He could have played 38. Could have played 37 like Jordan Poole. Again, Anthony Lamb, I don't mind as much, but if you're going to play 20 minutes and you're basically like the power forward of this team, I want more than 3 rebounds. I just Anthony Lamb is not the answer. I am very disappointed that James Wiseman only got 11 minutes tonight. I liked what I saw out there. I know he had a bad first half. He got 3 quick fouls. Look, Joel Embiid is a beast. To task Wiseman with guarding Joel Embiid, that's just a lot to ask for. And by the way, Ryan Shelton, who writes, "It's not personal with Lamb," and then calls him an alleged rapist. That's some Skip Bayless, you know what? Is it? Have you read the lawsuit? You know, I did the show that I hosted where I, forged a script that had all the facts that I had to present as objectively as possible to avoid any form of defamatory content. Is when you read the details, okay, and you still decide that you're just going to forgive him or give him the benefit of the doubt. Keep in mind, this is a player that has been with this team for 2.5 months. All right, so why do you trust him? Why does the team trust him? I was also raised with this information. Somebody brought this information to me also that I had completely forgot about. Kendrick Nunn, when the Warriors added him, I think he's actually he was convicted for sexual assault. And you're right, traveling. Your tweet is my audio. The audio crapped out when I read the whole thing, and then it was fine again afterwards. That was just the most bizarre thing ever. But Ryan, when you have an allegation like that levied towards you, do you really think that's something that doesn't have anything to do with basketball? Do you not understand the influence professional athletes have on a community around them? Like that's very disingenuous to say it has nothing to do with basketball. These are individuals that have considerable influence on the community around them. What kind of message does that send? It's and again, how is it worth it? I don't know. I strongly disagree that is like a Skip Bayless move, or that's that I'm pulling that card as a means of just attacking them. That's a very serious allegation. Okay. And if you actually read the details of the lawsuit, there is a lot of aspects to it that lead to evidence, leads to witnesses. It's also not just one instance, by the way. Anthony Lamb was alleged to have held the subject captive as a prisoner. And that was just on the night where he allegedly raped her. Then there were 2 other instances where he was accused of having sex without a condom, basically not letting her know or basically doing it against her wishes, and then videotaping sex with her and not even telling her about it, doing it without consent. I look, if you want to say that's a Skip Bayless move, fine, but I don't think there's anything wrong with letting people know that this is out there. All right. He was accused of raping a person in a program that is being sued for covering up numerous instances like this. All right. It's sketchy. How many other players out there have allegations like this against them? And LR, you ask, why can't you stop talking about Lamb? Because he played 20 minutes tonight. Because he's taking up a lot of time on the floor for a team that's 14-16, who's trying to repeat as a world champion. Here's a question for you. Why do you ignore this stuff? Why do you want to just brush it off? He does suck, Raphael. You're right. He's not a good player. And on top of that, a lot of you want to just pretend that he didn't allegedly rape a woman. That's a monstrous act, folks. I'm not going to ignore that. I'm sorry. Because that is a deplorable thing to do. And there's a very good chance his time is coming for that. But more importantly, or not more importantly, but also on the same page, why is the Golden State Warriors wasting their time on this guy? There are plenty of better options out there, And again, I don't know about you. There were 2 people in my life who were in situations where they were accused of something this serious. All right. And they both did it. there's a stat out there that shows in nearly every instance where there's an accusation of rape or sexual assault, it's something like 95% of the time it's true. I understand that sometimes there are false allegations out there. This woman's been pursuing this for 3 years. All right. And when you look at this lawsuit, there's a lot in there that makes you really squirmy and sketched out about this. All right. And again, for those of you that sit here and say, oh, well, and LR, again, this is about basketball. He's on the team. He's getting 20 minutes. You want to stick to basketball? He sucks. He's an average at best rebounder. He's a bad defender. His three-point shooting, when he makes them, they're not great timed. He doesn't win games for you. Okay. He's not a winner. Is that basketball enough for you? He's a two-way player who's been released by awful teams, who wasn't drafted for a damn good reason. What else do you want to bring at me about this guy? And again, more importantly, why do you defend him? Were you accused yourself of something like this? And this is like a sore subject for you? And Ray, no, his defense sucks. It sucks. And again, when you ask who has to play over Lamb, James Wiseman. All right. James Wiseman should have played more than 11 minutes tonight. I would rather have JaMychal Green get more minutes than Anthony Lamb. All right. Anthony Lamb is a lousy player. I agree. Trey Underwood, I have no idea where all these Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb fans are coming from. And again, for the people that are saying, bro, the show is going down, point the finger at the people that keep defending an alleged rapist and Ty Jerome, who is awful as a basketball player. Are you looking at the product on the court for the Golden State Warriors? Do you see a team that you think right now is going to repeat as a world champion? They're 14-16. They're 2-14 on the road. And Ryan Shelton, I don't even understand what that means to say it's a Skip Bayless move. I don't get that. I don't even understand what you mean by that. So is your insinuation then that we should just keep our mouths shut about this? It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, no, it makes me sick that this guy is on the Warriors. No truth. That's the truth right there. It makes me sick that this man, read the damn lawsuit. I might just have to do another show again where I have my script and try this again. But if I do it again, I'll have Kylan on the show with me to add on to this, because her and I have had a lot of off-the-air discussions about it. She's as sickened as I am, more so probably. And it is wrong at this point. Not only at the fact that no one's talking about it, that they seem to be giving a free pass to him, but that this man is on the team. He doesn't bring anything to the table. Now, Anis, who I love what you're bringing to the show tonight. Yeah, fair enough. Solomon's Tech, fair enough. We'll move on from the topic. Now, Anis brings up a point. And blame the people in the chat. I'm not going to ignore this, all right? You're saying Lamb is better than Wiseman. What do you base that on? If you are a Steve Kerr apologist, then at least just say that. Say you can't think for yourself, and whatever the head coach of the Warriors does, you just obey and follow. All right? He makes a lot of mistakes. Kerr makes a lot of mistakes as a coach. You're right. It is Steve Kerr who wants him in there, and it is a massive mistake that he's doing that. I want to play a soundbite here because we'll talk about trades in just a minute here. Yeah, it does boil my blood a little bit that people are defending someone who, if we're just going to talk about basketball, who brings nothing to the table. Look at this Warriors team, folks. They're not that good. And a huge reason why they're not that good is because they let go of all their depth under the premise that they wanted their youngsters to play, right? You have 3 lottery picks on this team. You have a former number 2 pick in James Wiseman who doesn't get any opportunities to play under Steve Kerr. He gets like snippets of time here and there, which does not build confidence, does not build skills. You need reps. You need experience to become a good player. So, but Steve Kerr decides, okay, I've been handed this roster that has 3 lottery picks who need to play to develop. But no, I'm going to stick with the 2-way guys that no other team wanted. One of them, no one even wanted to draft. 2 teams waved their asses because they sucked. No, we're going to play them a lot. And oh, look, the results of that are a 14-16 record a 2-14 road record, but you go on continuing to defend Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb because in your eyes, you think they're good. Ty Jerome is awful. And Steve Kerr is just swinging and missing left and right with this team. Now, Steve Kerr also said something about Klay Thompson's performance tonight because Klay was not good. And at this point, I think I'm ready for Klay Thompson to come off the bench. I really am. And this is not a slight to this is not a slight to Klay to do that. Manu Ginobili has come off the bench. Andre Iguodala came off the bench. It's not a diss. You could, as long as you're like, to me, the most important 5 players on a basketball team, and I think any coach will agree with this, or anyone will. The most important players on a basketball team are the ones who close the game. The ones who are there to finish the game. Those are the players that the coach trusts the most. Klay Thompson will still be finishing games. But at this point, given how Jordan Poole plays as a starter, given how Klay Thompson is just struggling all season long, given that he sometimes shows up like tonight where he doesn't show up, where he just looks lost, he looks disinterested, and his performance reflects that, it might be time for a change. And again, this is Kerr's worst year by far as a head coach. Here he is talking about Klay Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, a tough night for Klay. I mean, just the fact that he played, his knee was bothering him at shoot around. You guys know he was questionable before the game, but he's just the guy fights through everything. And so just his effort tonight was there, but the shots weren't going. He had some good ones. He maybe rushed a couple, but just wasn't his night. And, he'll bounce back. Yeah, I mean, a tough night.
Yeah, you think that he had a bad night? I think it's time for Klay Thompson to start coming off the bench. I really do. You can't just like let this continue all season long. This season is starting to slip away. It's starting to slip away. Stephen Curry is not going to be playing on this team again until late January, early February. Valentine's Day, I'd say if you want to be realistic, is when to expect him. And Rafa, I don't agree. I don't disagree with you that Klay's not done. But what I am saying is maybe there might a change is needed. All right, maybe bring him off the bench, have him support the youngsters, stagger the minutes so that Draymond Green continues to do what he's been doing, playing minutes with the second unit. Only instead of Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb out there just sucking the life out of the fan base, the team, play the youngsters. At least they're eager, and at least they produce sometimes. And at least when you see them play, there is hope. You see a future there. These are players who 5 years from now are supposed to be carrying this franchise. Trey Underwood writes, who are the two-way players that got consistent minutes for the Warriors last year? Well, Chris Chiozza was one of them. And then the other one is a player that I really wish they still had. And that was Spoons, Quindary Weatherspoon. I really am bummed that Quindary Weatherspoon is not with this team. And people look at me and say, and I've heard criticism when I defend Spoons, like, look at the numbers. He didn't put much numbers. Why do you think he's going to be so good? Stats aren't reflective always of a player's impact, how good he is. Not to mention with Spoons, he wasn't getting a lot of minutes. But look, when I met, I've had a few encounters with Weatherspoon. I like him as a person. And when it comes to team chemistry, which I don't think you need to be an expert at basketball analytics to see this, the Warriors' chemistry and vibes this year suck. They're not good. Like the body language isn't there. You don't see the positive emotion from the bench reactions. I don't see happiness on this team. And one thing Quindary Weatherspoon brought was just great chemistry. Like he made people laugh. He made people comfortable around him. And what I love the most is that this is a player who is going on his 4th two-way contract. And his entire mission this year was to replicate Gary Payne II's success. That was his entire mentality. I want to come in there and do what Gary Payne II did. And here's the part that's really disappointing and depressing, folks, is that they didn't waive him because they didn't think he was a good fit. They waived him because during the summer league, in an interview, he expressed disappointment, and it wasn't like harsh. It wasn't like he was calling anyone out, or he wasn't even angry. He just expressed an opinion that he was not happy with not getting a guaranteed deal, and that's something he wants to fight for. The team didn't like that. The team wanted him to go lockstep as a two-way player and just basically be submissive, and that's why they cut him. That's ego, folks. That's not cool. And Deluser writes, I should be hating on Myers and Lacob. First of all, I hate the fact that I'm being called I don't like to hate. I don't know. I'm a huge hard man. I don't like to be negative like this, but I also love my Warriors. And this is a team that should be repeating as a world champion easily, not struggling like this. So if I'm going to be really critical of someone, I don't think the problem necessarily is Myers, because Steve Kerr, has a huge influence when it comes to personnel decisions. And B, he's the one who's giving these minutes to Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb when he should be giving these minutes to the youngsters. I've talked about this before in the show, but it's been a couple months, and I'll repeat it again right now. There is a chasm between Steve Kerr and ownership. Ownership has 3 lottery picks they're paying millions upon millions of dollars to, and who they take great pride in. When James Wiseman, for example, was sent down to Santa Cruz, Joe Lacob was there for that game to show support. Joe Lacob likes his lottery picks. He wants them to play. Steve Kerr doesn't want them to play. And so Steve Kerr, as an act of basically defiance and as a subtle message, is basically telling ownership, I'm not going to follow along with what you want me to do. So I'm going to play these two-way guys that he has an affinity for. And I don't get the why of that, given the results do not support it. They're 14-16. Okay, no matter what three-point percentage number you show at me, no matter what scoring average you show at me, no matter what rebounding numbers you show at me, the only stats that matter are wins and losses. They're 14-16. Something is broken here. It starts with the minute allocation that Kerr is giving to these two-way players who do not belong on a roster pursuing a repeat world championship. So you have the lottery picks, and again, you need to develop them. And one of the fundamental effective teaching methods is learn as you do. I'm also a teacher, folks. I'm a professor. I've been doing it for 10 years now. I know it's very different from an NBA roster. I get that. I'm not delusional. But if there's one thing that I do know when it comes to teaching, is that there's no more effective of a method than learn as you do. That is what the top universities pride themselves on. And right now, James Wiseman, Moses Moody, and to a slightly lesser extent, Jonathan Kuminga, are not learning as they do because they're just rotting on a bench. So that's what's going on here, folks. I want to be positive tonight, man. And then we started getting all anus. I start with you. You were the rabble rouser. You poked me. You pushed my buttons. By the way, 49ers minded. Great to see you. Congrats on your Niners, bud. Brock Purdy. How about that? At least we got the Niners. So I'm actually, again, I'm not that discouraged by tonight's game. This Philadelphia 76ers team is good. They're a good team. And even though Kuminga on the stat sheet didn't show it tonight, the 0 rebounds was stark. That's unfortunate. But I loved his defense and his aggressiveness and his tenacity on James Harden tonight. He did not make things easy on him when he was defending him. He didn't get baited into stupid fouls. That part I loved. Dante DiVincenzo was fantastic. Fantastic. They need to give him an extension today. Because again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, has a $4.5 million player option for next season. He's not going to sign that. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Give him an extension now, please. And this show's running long. I don't care. I'm supposed to go at 30 minutes. Let's finish it on this note. This team needs change. All right. 30 games is a large enough sample size to make serious determinations. All right. This team needs change. And what that change is, again, I am not the GM. Bob Myers needs to do something. Steve Kerr needs to do something. I don't know if that change is something as subtle and simple as moving Klay to the bench. Once Steph comes back, that's kind of a moot point right now because Steph's gone for the next 4 to 6 weeks. But I don't know if that change is trading James Wiseman. I don't know if that change is trading a couple of lottery picks. I don't know if that change is finding a free agent from the buyout market. I feel like if they were going to add a free agent based on who's available now, they would have done it by now. So maybe Bob Myers is waiting for the buyout market and seeing who slips through the cracks, who unexpectedly gets bought out so they could play for a contending team. And Sammy, right on. You're right. You're absolutely right. Sammy Hamburger writes, you should be blaming Draymond for punching Poole than for ruining team chemistry. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That to me, like this whole season's karma has been bad, right? It's just, this has been a bad karma season. It started with the team going cheap, not re-signing Gary Payne II, not re-signing Otto Porter Jr. And then you let Spoons go. You replace him with these two-way guys that this project is a failure. This is the Jerome Lamb experiment is a failure, right? But letting go of Spoons was just bad karma, man. This kid was good for the team. Then obviously the Draymond punch, right? And then now we're here. So some changes needed. Stoney says should have signed Boogie. He's still out there. They still can. Thomas Martin, who might be right. You might be right that Thomas Martin writes Warriors just need to play with a sense of urgency like they did against the Celtics. You might be right, but the way they're going right now, they're not going to even make the play-in. You know, I mean, so, and maybe they need players that will have that urgency. Yeah, and Coast to Coast writes, because there is some news out there that Bob Myers, I believe, is not even under contract right now. He's angling for a new deal. Coast to Coast writes, I have a feeling Myers doesn't want anything to do with Steve's politics. That's why he doesn't have a contract. I don't know. But I do feel strongly, and yes, Sarah, they're 14-16 right now. And I do feel strongly that serious change is needed. I would not be opposed to trading Draymond Green at this point. I really would not. You got to get something incredible back for him. Like Bam Adebayo is my dream. It's like my dream player. Like I feel like if the Warriors could pull off like a Draymond Green, James Wiseman, we'll give you every first round pick we have for the next 7 years. For Bam Adebayo, do it. Please do it. I love Vanderbilt from Utah. If he's available, do it. I'm all in. If the asking price is Kuminga, that's tough. But yeah, this is rough, man. This is rough. Anything else before we're done? Yeah, Steph's legacy is important here as well. Sarah, you also add that, and that's a great point. Stephen Curry turns 35 on March 14th. And what are you doing about that? I'm seeing if anything else. Vanderbilt and Olynyk from the Jazz for Wiseman and Moody. Yeah, why not? What the hell? Why not? Yeah. So again, I'm not discouraged by tonight's game because again, you're missing Wiggins. The Wiggins absence is huge, folks. He's going to come back soon. You're missing Draymond. You're obviously missing Steph. Andre Iguodala will come back. Here's a weird thing about Iguodala. He's been practicing with the team. Another weird thing, by the way, no one knows this because the Warriors have been really shutting down a lot of media availability lately. But the Warriors are not holding practice that much anymore. I don't get that. That's something that has not been reported. But this is a team that used to practice very regularly, like 3, 4, 5 days a week. They're barely holding practices now. No cap. Here's one guarantee I will have for you. Well, not a guarantee, but I believe strongly in this because you're right. Maybe they bring in Sam Presti this offseason. If Bob Myers goes, his replacement will most likely be Brent Barry. And I wouldn't mind that. I like Brent Barry. I like him as a person. I think he has a smart basketball mind. So Brent will likely be the person if Bob Myers leaves. But the 14 and 16, folks. I'm sorry to be a hater. That's not at all what I want. I don't like espousing all this negativity out there, but this team is change is needed, and these two-way players are not it. No cap. Brent Barry is Rick Barry's son. He's an executive with the San Antonio Spurs right now, former slam dunk contest winner, former world champion with the Spurs. And no cap, if Kirk Lacob replaces, that's Bob Myers, that's not good. I'm not a nepotism fan personally. I love Myers too. Yeah, let's just hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, so maybe on the next show we'll talk about some trade scenarios. I know my buddy Connell Turno is writing a great piece coming out Sunday, talking about the state of the team. Definitely read that from the San Francisco Chronicle. iQuest writes, what is causing Kerr to not see that Wiseman does much less damage on the floor than Lamb? I don't know. And a huge part of the problem is that our media here is borderline afraid of Kerr, and so they never ask him the tough questions, and so it's hard to get the answers, Yeah. Have a great weekend, everyone. And again, don't be super discouraged. Even though they're 14 and 16, that 2-14 road record is atrocious, but it's still early. Again, in case, let me remind you one more time. The Warriors right now are 3 games back of the 6th seed, currently held by the Portland Trailblazers and Sacramento Kings. Let me correct that, what I just said. They're 3 games back of the 5th seed because those teams are tied for the 5th seed. The Warriors are only 3.5 games back of the 4 seed. The Warriors are only 5 games back of the 2 seed. So let's not panic too much, all right? Still early. We've still got 52 games to go. The two-way players, they will not be eligible to play any more games after the 50-game mark. And yeah, I don't think we're horrible, but there is change needed, folks. There is change needed, okay? Because this product, this ain't it. And let's hope it starts with the two-way players just being phased out. Why not promote Travion Williams for Anthony Lamb? Why not promote Pat Spencer for Ty Jerome? This is baffling. And again, the Mike Brown absence might have a huge impact. Maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe it's all of the above. Anyways, I love you folks. Thank you for joining in. I'll try to make a bigger announcement for future shows. I wasn't even planning on doing this tonight. Someone tweeted at me if I'm going to do it. They wanted to vent. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? So I'll try to be more on top of raising awareness for future shows. But seriously, thank you so much. Solomon, where's that comment? Who wrote that? Solomon's Tech writes, Lacob is paying millions in luxury tax for mediocrity. Yeah, you nailed it. I'll say this. Lacob's not happy right now. So, and that man acts. All right. He doesn't just sit on his laurels when things are going bad. He's all about action. So I do love that. So let's hope for some change happening soon. But yeah, thank you again. Have a great weekend. Next show is Monday. Kyle and Mills will join me. I think Monday the Warriors, let me look at their schedule real quick because they're only halfway through this brutal road trip. I believe they next play on where's my schedule here? What's going on? I'm lost. Oh, here we go. They play Sunday at Toronto. So most likely Monday, Colin and I will have a full show. We'll be live. Just follow us on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. That's where we announce all these things. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Really. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you Monday. Peace. Bye. Later. I don't know yet, Coast to Coast. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. I'll announce the time. I'll announce all that stuff there. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.